welcome. I'm super excited for this conversation. So we've got a panel of 3, assuming that Moeed doesn't show up. And we're talking about side projects. So this is something that comes up on Locally Optimistic quite often. Folks are talking about how to get things done, how to find partners for it, how to pick the tools and all of that. So I'm excited to learn from folks who have actually kept a side project going across the most difficult year of all of our lives. And so with that, I will kick it over to Audrey to get us started and run through introductions. So if you all can share your name, your current role, and a little bit about the project and kind of the background of what we're talking about today.
Sure. So my name is Audrey. I'm between jobs right now, but on Monday, I start as a search engineer on the search team at Reddit. So that will be my shtick in a couple of days. And previously, I've worked as a data scientist and a search relevance engineer. And basically, that just means I work on search engines and try to make the search results that they return relevant to people. And my background is actually in librarianship. So I have my master's in library and information science. And that's kind of how I got into the search field. Although I took a data science boot camp, that's how I got into like the search meets tech field. And yeah, I'm based in Connecticut. I live with my 2 dogs and we hike a lot. And I love the Locally Optimistic channel. And yeah, I'll pass it to Sherin for, I guess, her intro, and then we can talk about the project.
Thank you. Sure. Hello, I'm Sherin. I'm a senior data scientist working in Red Hat. I'm with the advanced cluster management team in Red Hat and support the search capability within the multi-cluster management tool. So yeah, and one day it was, we were all working in the same company before we were all in IBM. So that's where we met and started the group. So just started organically, I would say. Well, Audrey was the one who was like, I saw a message in Slack and then we all started this group. So yep, and here we are, happy to be here. So I'll pass it to Anxhela.
Hi everyone, my name is Anxhela. I'm also at Red Hat just recently. Before that, I was working as a data analyst and developer for United Way. I'm also in Connecticut, so there's some weird correlations within our group that did not happen. Just turned out we had these coincidences. And yeah, we started this project 2019, mid 2019, and going strong. And yeah, and Moed's also our other team member, which he just started a new job as well, but he is not here right now.
Yeah, I forget. Do you remember where he works now? I forget the name.
Actually, don't.
Of the company. It's in Slack somewhere. But yeah, we all just got new jobs. Well, I guess Sherin's an OG, but the rest of us are all newly employed. And then our project is about, so as Sherin said, I had posted in, so when we all 3 of us, or 4 of us, worked at IBM in 2019, that was when, so I was living in New York City and I was registered to vote in New York City, and something on the ballot in 2019 in September was whether or not New York City would change its plurality voting system, which is just like how you vote for the president, the same system that everybody's probably familiar with in America, to a ranked choice voting system, where basically you, instead of choosing like Biden or Trump on a ballot, you could rank all the candidates from however many candidates there are, from most beloved to least beloved. And then there's various rounds of voting where whichever candidate loses in the first round, his or her votes get reallocated to the remaining people, and so on until there's a majority winner. And there's a lot of like campaigning on the streets in New York City by people both for and against, and the people who are against it gave me like a flyer, or maybe they had put out a blog post, or somehow I read about something called the spoiler effect, which, well, rather I read about something that essentially said, in a ranked choice voting system, there's this weird phenomenon where essentially the candidate who nobody wants to actually win, so like maybe the candidate that is ranked 3 of 5 on everybody's ballots, because of how the math works, could, in rare instances, be the one that actually wins because of how the votes are reallocated. And I was like, oh no, that's not good. Like, I don't want that to happen. So, and I was looking for a side project to do because I was right out of a boot camp, and I was feeling very imposter syndrome about my life. And I was like, I need a side project to like look cool and employable. And so I posted in this Slack channel, and Anxhela and Sherin and Moeed were some of the people who responded that they would want to like figure out this problem, like if it's actually a rare occurrence, or if it happens often, or if it happens at all in these ranked choice voting systems. And so that's where our project kind of started. And now it's been like almost 2 years, I guess, which is insane. But the goal, I guess, like at the end of it, and it's still a work in progress, but the end goal would be to have an app or a website where somebody could create their own election and see whether or not it might be spoiled according to various features we have. And by spoiled, I mean that's like when no one's favorite would win. It's called the spoiler effect. And in our repo, we have lots of reading resources about it. And yes, there's an awesome Radio Lab episode about it. So lots of reading to do, but that's our project.
Awesome. So how did you all decide whether, sort of who you needed on the team? I assume that you would not have embarked on this on your own, although maybe you would have, but did you have kind of an ideal team size or team makeup in mind as you embarked on this?
I don't want to bulldoze this conversation, but I will go first on this one. When I like put out the message, I had 0 parameters in mind for the team. So I was just like, I'm sort of new here and I don't know anybody, so I want to make friends, and I also want to learn more about data science. And I think like originally, I forget, I think that Anxhela was like one of the first respondees, I think, to the message. And there was originally like 10 people or so in a Slack, I think it was a Slack group that I had made or something once we got people together. And then it kind of trickled out between, people's other engagements and people learning about what we actually wanted to do in the project. And some people dropped out because they didn't find it aligned with their interest, and other people just had too much work. But then this core group of us, this 4 of us, have been together for like a year and a half or so. And with roles, I don't know, Sherin and Anxhela, I guess this was in the data science channel at IBM. So that kind of like self-selected for data science people. And I guess our project, besides the machine learning part of it, where somebody could input an election and find out if it is predicted to be spoiled or not, it's very, I think, like software engineering heavy and like data engineering heavy. So it turned out to be not so data science-y as I think we thought at the beginning. But yeah, I don't know. It's Sherin and Anxhela. Why did you guys, I don't know, think that your roles could benefit the project?
Yeah, so I also joined IBM in 2018 at the time, and I was like a little bit new. And when I saw so there are like constant messages going on in this data scientist Slack. And then when I saw this, I was also looking for a side project to do. And I was like, okay, this sounds like or seems interesting, and I would like to join that. And I was like, yes, please, I'm here. And then Audrey had posted Anxhela was also in the group. Like both of them are working together. And when I joined the other Slack channel that she already had, I saw that there were a couple of other people who, Audrey said, trickled out after a while. once they learned more about what it is, because it's kind of a complex topic to explain. Like, it's difficult to like tell someone, okay, this is what it actually is. But then when you so the first few weeks of our project was really like researching what it actually is, like what the spoiler effect actually meant, and like how you can figure this out, things like that. So and then like Mohit also said, yeah, we would. So we were kind of the late joinees to the team, I would say. But like then we started, like we were still in the research phase. So like Audrey said, yeah, we sticked around, and 4 of us ended up like still being together here with the group after like almost 2 years, I would say, almost. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add that my interest of joining this specific project, like a few years before 2019, I think like 2016 or something, I went to a math conference, and that was the first time I ever heard about ranked choice voting. And it seemed like a really cool concept. And, why aren't we taking it on? What problems are we facing that we're not all accepting this voting system? So this was an interesting project to kind of explore that with people who, of course, wanted to explore data science and were relatively new to it. I was as well. So.
Yeah, and I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say regarding the skill set of I feel like all three of us are pretty much like on par with our skill levels to each other. And Moeed was super transparent. He was like, listen, I'm not working as a data scientist, but I'm super interested in it. I think at the time he was working as an analyst, but like on a sales team, I think, or something. And so he like took a role of kind of being the learner and like asking a lot of questions and figuring out if things make sense to like more of a newcomer's viewpoint. And so that was also really nice. Like it wasn't all, everybody knows everything all the time. We definitely have like varying skills. And I don't think anybody in our group is like super duper genius data scientist. Like I think it was supposed to be like, a very chill, like no pressure, nobody knows what we're doing. And that's the point of having the side project, is to like learn how to do these things. So that's all.
Yeah, that's a great approach to take, and sort of that learner's mindset obviously is always very valuable. And so how have you structured how you work on it? Like life is busy and work is busy, and it's easy to let something languish. I know as Locally Optimistic is my side project, and sometimes it's embarrassing how long I let things sit around before I get around to them. So how do you structure kind of the ways that you get things done, and holding yourselves accountable or not holding yourselves accountable when that's the right thing?
If I can go first. So I think we started around it. We have moved around a lot, but we started with deciding a day. Like we tried to meet weekly. And we decided, I think we started meeting every Friday or Thursday when we started out. And then we used to meet every week and then decide on what needs to be done. So make a checklist of, Audrey was kind of like the checklist keeper. She'll be like, okay, we have to get this done. So we'll figure out like what needs to be done and create a checklist of that. And then decide, okay, who wants to do what? And then let that person take the lead on that. So as I said earlier, at first it was mostly research. So who wants to research this aspect and who wants to research this particular aspect? And then we'll collect all the data points. And, the next week when we come together, we'll discuss what we found, what was interesting, things like that. And then as we moved on to the next phases, as in like, okay, we have to find data. So we'll like look at all the elections that happened all over the world to see if we can find some data that is like ranked choice voting and spoil and things like that. So figuring out that, and then having that checklist. After a while, it was like when people started like moving companies, like moved out, then Fridays was not possible for everyone. And so we, come and vote or like decide on the Slack channel. So the thing is like when the first person moved out, I think it was Anxhela, to another company, we were like, okay, we were using the internal Slack within IBM. So we were like, okay, we have to create a private workspace. So we created a separate Slack channel for us to communicate, because that helped us to keep the communication going. And then also like I believe when we started out, we were working in Watson Studio within IBM, so we could all see the code. But then after, when people started moving, we moved to GitHub so that we can share the code and it's open to everyone. So that's how we used to share code. But yeah, the cadence of the meetings was mostly weekly. And then before the meeting, we would like, if we haven't made any updates, like if we haven't made any progress, we'll be like, okay, has anyone made any progress? If that was not the case and we didn't have anything to share, we'll be like, okay, we'll forego the meeting. Or if it was like a long weekend and, people are mostly like busy with life, we'll forego the meeting. But usually I think we met almost every week, and it was fun to catch up too. So yeah, that's what we did, and it worked for us so far.
Yeah, I feel like I think Moeed said this last time, that it's more like a support group now, especially with everybody leaving jobs and changing lives and having babies and
the pandemic.
The pandemic, yeah. It's like we meet weekly, but it's not like an intense, like, let's all pair program and like debug together. It's like, hey, what's up, dudes? Like, this is my dog. This is what's happening. And we had Google Docs. We switched because we were doing like an IBM version. What is it called? I forget. Docs, something.
I think it was
Box.
We used to Box. Yeah.
Box, yeah. But then we had to switch to Google Docs as people were leaving IBM. And so we had a lot of like checklists. And I remember there was one spreadsheet where we would have things that were like, like a Kanban board, kind of like in progress, to do, finished. There's a lot of unfinished trackers and things like that in our Google Docs life. And I think regarding accountability, I would say, I mean, you guys could totally disagree with me, but I think we generally there's hardly any accountability. Like I think one of the nice things is like, yes, we're say like, all right, Audrey will take on this, Sherin will take on this, Anxhela will take on this, but then like so often one of us will be like, I didn't get this done. Like, I'm sorry, I was just really depressed this week, or I had a lot of work this week, or like whatever. And it's like, all right, cool. Like, do it next week. Like, do you need help? Do you want me to take it on? Whatever. So it's not like, I guess that is a kind of accountability, but it's not in like a scary way. Like, I think everybody, I hope, feels comfortable saying, I didn't get my thing done. Sorry. And yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have any strict deadlines. It was pretty fluid, and kind of went along as people picked up the pace. And
yeah,
that's probably why it's taken 2 years to finish.
Yeah. Some weeks you're really productive and you like sit and complete. I believe like when we started out, like every week before the Tuesday or whenever we'll have the meeting, I'll be like, oh my God, I haven't done anything, so I have to get something done. So I'll sit and like do some work, and so that's how it happens. It's like, because you're doing this as a side project, you'll have like the work that you have to do on your job, and then this. So it has been kind of a little hard, but we have definitely made good progress. So
yeah,
out of that.
Have there been any other challenges beyond sort of just life coming and getting in the way occasionally to continuing to make progress, or moments where you wondered if sort of maybe this, has run its course and maybe we should give up?
Audrey's muted, but yeah.
I'm muted. I'm saying yes.
Yeah, I think all of us at one point were kind of like.
I think, yeah, some of the challenges that we faced, like when we started with the data collection, and like when we, actually started moving into the, modeling part, we were like, okay, we don't have data, so we have to like, we couldn't find any like spoiled elections other than a few that we found. So we had to like find data, and then we came together, and then we discussed, okay, how should we move forward? And then we decided, okay, we can simulate some data based on the spoiled elections that we have. So that was one challenge, like Anxhela, you pointed out earlier. And yeah, if you think you had some other.
Yeah, I was going to add scalability, I think, was one of our biggest challenges, just because when we run our scripts, they're pretty computationally heavy and require a lot of memory. So that kind of taxed our progress, at least. So we did move to the cloud. We were all using, our local machines. So that was kind of something that helped. But yeah, scalability it's always rough with data projects.
Yeah, and like it definitely changed. Like when speaking from personal experience, now that I'm between jobs, I don't have a work computer. Like I had to give my fancy MacBook Pro back to Shopify, which was my last job. And so, for like a month, I was on the computer I am on now, which is like a MacBook Air from, I don't know, 2015 or something. So essentially I couldn't do any like running of anything locally. So Anxhela helped me out. Like we did some AWS stuff. We tried to do some Google Colab stuff, but like, yeah, scalability totally sucked. And then also I would say like way in the beginning when we were doing the research phase, as Sherin touched on, basically there's no publicly available spoiled election data, because not very many places use ranked choice voting in the US. I know that Ireland has used it for like a bunch of years, but in the US it's a little bit rare and it's more in local elections. And as you guys probably know, like a lot of cultural institutions don't have funds to like publicly make their data available and clean and all of that stuff. So we had a ton of problems like modeling data. And so as Sherin said, we had to make synthetic data like based off of essentially just this one Burlington election that we found that was like clean data and good and reliable and stuff. And we used that to basically like gut check our algorithms against, like, okay, we have this one spoiled election. We're going to run our algorithm on our synthetic data and get one result, and then run it on the Burlington actual election data and get another result. And hopefully those results match because, if they're spoiled or if they're not spoiled. And I ended up reaching out to a couple people. So everybody in the ranked choice voting world, I guess, is like very friendly. So I spoke to 3 people just by like finding their websites and emailing them. 2 people from this website, I think it's called fairvote.com. And they basically like really helped us understand what ranked choice voting is. And they gave us a bunch of resources. And they were actually, one of them was the one who put together this like gigantic data set of elections, some spoiled and some not, but he did all of the work of like normalizing the elections, meaning like, if there were write-ins for people who were not on the ballot, or like in like partial ballots that were cast and stuff like that, he like figured out how to deal with that. So we didn't really have to do any of that, which was like amazing because he's some political science like PhD dude person. So he like did all that. And then I also reached out to the guy who wrote this library, which is like the backbone of our whole project. It's called PyRankVote, and it has a bunch of different voting algorithms in it, but one of them is the ranked choice voting algorithm. And he really helped us a lot too. I think he's somewhere in Scandinavia, I want to say, maybe Germany. Excuse me. And so his code like helped us just get things going so much. Like at first, I think we were trying to do things from the ground up, and it was just like, we know like voting algorithms and the math behind it are so complicated. I don't think any of us realized how complicated. And so like these people really helped us, I don't know, move the project along. And we have a acknowledgements section in our README being like, thank you so much. So that helped us move along a lot as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. It is super complicated. And I love the image in this Radiolab episode that I posted in the chat, the image of like physically sorting ballots, which is how they do it in Ireland. And it's like a spectator sport. Everyone's like watching and you're like counting the ballots and putting them in piles. And then this pile is disqualified and you go back and you recount all the ballots. And like ranked choice voting is really difficult. But I love that they have chosen to not automate any of it because people really love watching it, and it like engenders more engagement with the voting process.
Yeah, it seems to work for them. So that's, yeah, good for them.
But Yeah, it's really amazing to find, especially sort of the data side, that's so often the biggest challenge of a data project, to find support. So that sounds like it was sort of a relatively radical shift in kind of how you could approach this problem. What are some of the ways that the project changed or evolved in a way you weren't expecting, if you didn't necessarily, have a strong expectation, but surprises that have come up along the way in terms of how it has evolved?
I would say, or I don't know if any of us had expectations about how it would evolve at first, but there was definitely a lot of back and forth when we were doing our research, whether or not this was even like a thing we should be doing, like if it's a data science question at all, kind of, and like, are we just trying to force it into being a data science question? Is it really just like a math question, just like a big matrix of like pairwise elections? And that's probably still a valid question. Like, are we forcing it to be a data science problem? I think we are using data science to complement the problem, but that's just me. But I think throughout the research process, I think we switched a lot of times between what we were going to do the project on. So I think we ended up doing the spoiler effect because it was relatively straightforward compared to the other ones, but there was so many more things we uncovered while researching, like the arrows and possibility theorem, or like the different types of ranked choice voting. There's like different flavors of it, and like there's different flavors of the algorithms that can be used to decide like the Condorcet winner and all of these types of things. And so we were like, oh Jesus, like what did we get ourselves into? Like we don't know how to do any of this. Yeah, and the spoiler effect just seemed like it had a lot of information online about it and was like kind of some sort of straightforward. And I think at first we wanted to, I think the app idea that we have now of just letting a user create an election and seeing if it's spoiled or not is kind of a pared down version of what we had originally spoke about, which I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but I think it was more like we could run a ranked choice voting election simulation versus like a plurality voting versus whatever voting. And then like, because the spoiler effect can happen in a bunch of different voting systems, it was just that ranked choice voting was like the one system that was supposed to mitigate it the most or something. And so I think we wanted to do like a bunch of different systems and then see like if ranked choice voting actually was the one that was least susceptible to the spoiler effect. But that seems super complicated. I'm not sure where we netted out on that, but somehow it's a little paired, it's a little scoped down, at least now. I mean, we could always build on it, but.
It's always good to have an MVP.
Yes, yeah, 2 years in the making MVP, yeah. Very, maybe not minimum viable product, like intermediate viable product.
Maximum.
Maximum
In the beginning, product. This was a mini project only to last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and it ended up being 2 years.
Yeah, we're like, let's get it done by Q1, like after Christmas.
Yeah.
No. Oh my God.
Yeah, when we first started, I remember Audrey was like, oh, we'll wrap up this by Christmas. And then I was like, oh, I'm taking some vacation around that time. How am I going to do this? And then, yeah, it extended it and 2 years. And then here we are still. So yeah, on the scoping, I think when we started, like Audrey said, we definitely thought about like, we had this question of, after we did some research, we had this question of, is this really a data science problem, or can you just figure out by putting in the number of candidates and the number of ballots that were cast and things like that, can you figure out if it will be spoiled or not? So I think when we started out, we were thinking like, we'll let people put in elections. Like if you have like the elections that were, the ballots that were cast and things like that, enter that, and then it will let you know if it was spoiled or not. But then now it's, I think we have come to a point where our app, when we deploy it, it will let you select a few parameters like the number of candidates, the amount of noise that you want, and then we'll create the election, the synthetic data, and to a question in the chat, I see that we created a Python script that will add, like, it has all these parameters, take all these parameters as input, and then create an election or to choose like randomly how many ballots will be cast and what will be the amount of noise and things like that. And then we'll create the data by using that script. So we wrote that script, and I think finally, I mean, by the end of our end goal will be like to generate this data based on the parameters that the user will input, and then tell that, okay, based on what you have input and the data that we have created, will it be spoiled or not? So that is kind of the end goal for now.
Yeah, and I think our MVP of this was, like Sherin was saying, like we had all these, like a lot of NumPy functions that essentially chose random numbers for like the number of candidates or the amount of noise or whatever in these elections that we would generate. And then now, like literally now, we're in the process of we're like transitioning from the hard-coded NumPy like randomness and probabilities to allowing users to input like what they want for those features. So now it's like changing slightly, and it allows for more like interaction, which is cool. So right now we are in the midst of a scoping change, I guess, kind of technically. Yeah, and we modeled that synthetic data, or like we modeled our scripts to generate the synthetic data off of this Burlington 2009 mayoral election, which was like our gold star spoiled ranked choice voting election. So, and you can look it up. It's like a famous one. I think Burlington repealed ranked choice voting after it because of because it got spoiled. And they're like, oh God, we can't use it now. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, when we say noise, like it was like when we looked at the elections, most of the elections, some of the elections that we looked at had like mostly 3-4 candidates, and then like some of the elections had like up to like 20 candidates, 22. So when we generated the elections, we looked at it and said, okay, we added some weights so that the most of the elections will be around 3, 5, 8 candidates, and then as you go forward, it will be the number of elections will be less, like with a higher number of candidates. So we control that using weights. And I think about the bias from the election, that's one challenge that we face, because once we created the data set, like Anxhela said before, it will take time to run the script. So we'll run the script, and then I used to like run the script and then come back in the morning and check to see like if all the elections are generated. And the outcome was like it was severely biased, as in the spoiled elections were very less compared to the non-spoiled ones. So we had to balance the data when we were in the modeling section.
Yeah, I wanted to add too, for the bias aspect, we tried to kind of avoid any bias features. So which Audrey added to the README if you look at it. So we didn't add anything like political party or female, male, or things that would cause a lot of bias. In the end, we didn't want to say this election was spoiled because of these bias reasons.
Yeah, and I think that, so right now our model is like, well, we've only really done like a first pass at modeling, but right now it's like not super great. I think it's at like, I don't know, between 75 and 83% accuracy or something like that. And we definitely like we still are trying to figure out like what features we could input into the script to get higher precision and recall and accuracy. But it's hard to do that without taking into account like those social factors that Anxhela was talking about, because to the computer, female, male is just 0, 1. So it's not like the computer gives a crap like what the end correlation is, but like we as a group didn't really want to build synthetic data with like demographic info or like socially defined information like that, because I think we were just really nervous about somebody like looking at our project and then drawing a correlation, which could be totally possible because the computer has no idea like what these social implications are, that like, oh, if there's a white man from middle America who runs in an election as a Republican, he spoils the election, you know, like because we were creating the data, so it's not like that would be reflective of like reality, you know. It would, so we stayed away from that, but it might end up being that our model isn't super accurate because we can't really take into account those things like as accurately as we would want. So that's still a question we're talking about. That's been hard. Yeah.
So what's next? Where are you all going from here? And when will you feel like this is done? Like, do you want to wrap it up? Are you gonna sort of keep evolving this until there's a change that, you know, prevents you all from having a side project, or where do you want to go with it?
I think we're kind of hoping to wrap it up. I think after, you know, our model, after plugging in some better features and seeing some improvement in our model cases, and kind of refining the final output, which is the UI that users can explore election results with. I think we'd like to keep it kind of an open source tool that, you know, other people can contribute to if they see mistakes, or if, you know, they want to add something to it, you know, they can reach out. So definitely keeping it open, but we do want to, you know, have some closure.
Yeah. Good. Go.
So and I'd add, like, we are kind of in the final phase because we have touched upon everything a little bit, and right now, Audrey, I think. So this has also evolved to be a support group, like everyone has pointed out earlier, and also to, you know, check out interesting things that you read about. So I don't remember if it was Audrey or Anxhela who's talked about Streamlit, and we decided, okay, that would be super cool to have in our project. So right now, Audrey is playing around with the Streamlit theme, so we can deploy an app, and then users can come in and select parameters. So, you know, but I think once we have that, it will be kind of our MVP is done, and then we can do a wrap up of that. But then I'm sure, like, we'll come around and like start something new if anybody has any different ideas, because, you know, we like the group.
Yeah, like I hope we keep doing little side projects forever, but we'll see if that happens. But yes, Streamlit is insane. Having used Flask in the past, Streamlit is like heaven. It is freaking amazing. Yeah, but I think, yeah, we're about to wrap it up probably in the next like couple months. And I hope, like, once we wrap it up to a good point, those people who we contacted about the research and stuff, like, I hope they read it and either say that it's right or wrong in some regard, because they all have PhDs in this and, like, you know, are crazy good at this kind of stuff. And I hope we haven't messed any of our understanding up about the algorithms. And then we'll definitely want to go back and refactor, because I think a way that this group kept the momentum going was, like, we very much adhered to the like shitty first draft kind of mentality. Like, let's just get it. If it works, like, cool, move on. And then, so like a lot of the stuff, you know, we could definitely, I think, optimize for speed, because it takes a long time, as Anxhela was saying, to run all the scripts. And, you know, if anybody finds mistakes, we'll want to go back and look at that. But I just wanted to say also, I saw a chat question from Mindy about interview processes and stuff. I definitely have mentioned this in like every interview I've had. I don't think, like, been asked about it directly, but I've definitely mentioned it. I mean, I have it on my resume, and I've definitely mentioned it verbally in like opening conversations with either HR or like the first round interviewer person. And they always seem like excited by it. So it can't hurt. And I also know Anxhela just was hired by Sherin's team. So they're literally going to work together. So, like, it's become a great networking opportunity. Yeah, you guys can talk more about that. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that having any project that you're passionate about and, you know, is definitely worth adding to your resume and talking about. It could be from a different job, could be from a side project, but something that, yeah, you found very interesting and you're kind of, you worked a lot on. I think that always shows promising results in interview processes.
Yeah, and like Audrey and Anxhela has pointed out, so we know like when we work as a group, like what our skill sets are, or like how others work and what their work ethic is and things like that. So when we had this opening in our team, I was like pointed out to my manager, see, I have this amazing person who I work with, and he was like, yeah, let's look at her resume, and finally we get to work together. So me and Anxhela, we are in the same team now. So yep.
That's an awesome success story.
And soon I'm going to bring them all to Reddit and steal them forever.
Any other questions from the rest of the group? Mindy, thank you for dropping so many awesome questions in the chat. Any parting words for folks? Advice that you wish you'd known before you embarked on this journey, or anything similar?
I would like to add something. As in, like when I first saw the Slack message from Audrey, I was like, and you can look at people and like everybody. I mean, especially it's in the data scientist Slack space, and I was like, oh my God, do I know enough to like talk to other data scientists, and will I like make any valuable contributions? I was so like, should I say yes? I think I pondered it a little bit too long, and it's like, should I volunteer? Should I not? And then finally I was like, okay, let's do it. Then I was like, yes, I'm volunteering. And then I mean, it has, and I remember like I attended Grace Hopper last time, the conference virtual, and then they were talking about like support groups, and this has evolved to be that for all of us, like especially those who were like, they're finding new jobs and like moving to new opportunities. So yeah, I would say like, if you see any opportunities, sign up for it, go for it, and it will prove to be, really good. So.
Yeah, and I would say also, if you do decide to do a side project, I would, how do I say this? I would keep meeting with your group. So like, I think it's super easy for us to like keep putting off meetings and like, oh, I only got like one line of code done, whatever. And we definitely did put off meetings when people were having a hard time, either at work or personally or whatever, like they just had too much on their plate. But sometimes we also just met because like we hadn't met in a long time. And like, even if there was nothing to like demo or talk about, we would just talk about life. And like, I think this has been one of the more worthwhile things I've committed to in my professional life, because it's just, I don't know, it's definitely the longest thing I think I've done professionally, because I'm pretty new to the field. And yeah, I don't think I've ever done an extracurricular thing for this long. And I'm glad that I kept showing up to the meetings and like not, being like, oh, it's too much work, it's too hard, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to be lazy, and like continue in my own little cave. So it's been very nice. So I would, even if you feel tired, I would suggest just pop your head into the Zoom and say hi to your friends that you're working with. And yeah.
Those are such good parting words. Yes, you can do it, and just show up. You only make progress when you just keep showing up. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been an awesome conversation. I love that you all have kept this project going for so long, and really appreciate you taking the time to chat about it a little bit.
Well, thank you for having us. And I'm sure Moeed says hello as well, in absentia.
We're so sorry we missed him, but congratulations, Moeed.
Yeah, new baby. Very exciting.
Awesome. And if anybody has great side project ideas and you're looking for collaborators, Locally Optimistic is a good place to start as well. Just reach out and pick people's brains. But
I would say, just really quickly, I didn't know that you were one of the founders of Locally Optimistic, or the founder, but I have gotten 2 job offers from Locally Optimistic random connections. So Thank you so much for, I like anyone who's job seeking, I'm like, dude, you have to try, you have to join the Locally Optimistic Slack channel. I swear to God, it's like, yes, my Reddit job and my Shopify job came from Locally Optimistic, like directly. So
amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. I wasn't a founder, but I have also basically the same time period, last couple of years, I've been pretty involved, and it was also really helpful in getting me through the pandemic. It's a bit of a support group. There's a lot of value in doing something that uses a part of your brain that you feel good about, but isn't work.
Yeah, we need t-shirts or something, like sweatbands.
Yes. Awesome.
Cool.
Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend, and see you around.
See you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.